Hello and welcome to this camera box album tutorial. It's a project that I found over on Alagaina's YouTube channel. If you don't know her stuff, you really must go over and have a look. It is absolutely fabulous. And here she's graciously given me permission once again to share my version of her project with you. I'm Mary Jane and you can find my other videos on my MJ Mistral channel. I fell in love with Alagaina's project right away and thought it would be a perfect present for Magali's birthday. So before we get into things, let's have a look at it. I'm first going to show it to you from all different angles. The top, the back, the sides with the little handle, the buttons on the top and the lens on the front. When I take the lid off, and you'll see that the lid is lined, the album just falls out, slides out. There's a bow and a magnet to keep the album shut. And as I open it, you'll see that there are different little sections. There's the accordion fold section here that I'm flipping through both ways. There are file folder type pieces here on the left side. A flip up page over on the right side. My idea was to put Polaroid type photos there. And I've got some tags under the little flap on the right hand side. So when I fold this all back up, you see that I've got, you can see, perhaps you can't see it there, but that's where the magnet is underneath those two bits there. Put my bow back together, slide it back into the box. And you can see that I wrote a little message inside the lens on this particular box. I've got another one started that I'm going to show you too right away. You can just see how it's a bit different, mostly in the papers actually, and the fact that I haven't written anything inside the lens of this one. I've just put more printed paper underneath the acetate lens. There, so you had an overview of the project. Now let's just move along and see how to do it. You're going to need a bunch of things. I've made a list here. You can stop the video and write things down. Hopefully I haven't forgotten anything. You'll need a bit of material as well, like your paper cutter and a bone folder and dies and punches, and the crocodile is going to come in handy, and then the rest of your usual stuff, double-sided adhesive or sticky tape, glue, scissors, ink, pencils, markers, and the rest. So let's get started. We're going to start with the box part. You're going to cut your paper to 28.5 by 21, and you are going to do fold lines as I've done here. You're going to mark two fold lines in 2.5 centimeters from the long edges, okay? And then you're going to mark fold lines in the other direction, starting at one of the short edges. You're going to go in 12 centimeters and then 16.5 centimeters, so that you finish with two end bits that are 12 centimeters with 4.5 centimeters between the two. You're going to need to cut out printed paper for the decoration of the box, and here I've given you the dimensions of all the pieces that you're going to use. Don't forget to burnish the edges before you go any further. So what you can do is glue the designer paper, the printed paper, the three pieces as I've shown you here. Your designer paper is going to leave 2.5 millimeters all the way around. Okay, so you have black borders everywhere. And you're going to cut in from the edge to the fold line, here where I've shown you. You are going to put your sticky tape here as I'm showing you on the tab that folds up and on one side of the box. We're going to fold up one side first, the side that doesn't have the tape, and then you're going to take your backing off and fold the other side in. They are going to overlap, but there's going to be a 5 millimeter overlap, okay, on the sides, which you're going to cover up with a piece of printed paper, as I'm showing you here. And once you've got that printed paper glued into place, give it a good press with your bone folder from the inside. And that's the bottom of your box. Now let's move along to the lid. you're going to cut your paper to 23.5 by 12 centimeters, and you are going to mark fold lines in 3.5 centimeters from all edges. You are going to cut tiny little triangles out of the tabs, as I've shown you here, on both sides, obviously. You can cut your printed paper to the dimensions that I've noted here. In the photo, you don't see the printed paper that's going to go on the two end pieces, but I have written the dimensions down for you. Don't forget to burnish the paper, the printed paper, I mean, and then you can glue those into place. Next, take off the backing of your adhesive and fold up the ends to form your box, and put the designer paper, the printed paper, on the ends of the box as well. There you've got a look of your box finished. The next thing you're going to do is put one big eyelet in one end of the lid. That's where we're going to put our handle. So you're going to cut a piece of ribbon that's about 20 centimeters long, thread it in through the eyelet, hold it in place with some adhesive, and then we're going to cover that up on the inside by lining all 5 sides of the inside. That you're going to use the printed paper exactly the same size as you did for the outside of the box lid. So now we've got our box with the handle. Now what I've done here is prepare a little video to show you how to make the button that's going to go on the top of the box, the button that you press on to take the photos. I'm measuring my lid. I've got a lid that's 3 centimeters, and I've cut out a black circle that's about 4 centimeters with the big shot. Okay, I am going to center my lid in the middle of this black piece of paper, and I'm going to draw around it with a pencil. I'm next going to put tiny little pieces of sticky tape all around the edge. The sticky tape is going to go off the edges a little bit. It doesn't really matter. I'm just going to keep going all the way around. Push it down nicely with your thumbnail or with your bone folder. You're going to pick it up and take the backing. Before we take the backing off, we're going to cut in to our crayon, our pencil line, all the way around. We can't see the pencil line anymore because it's covered up with the tape. What we know roughly where it is, it's roughly 5 millimeters in. And now I'm going to take my backing off the adhesive tape all the way around. I'm also going to put one piece of adhesive in the middle of this black circle just to keep it from slipping around as I'm working. There, just a piece in the middle to hold everything in place as I continue. So now I'm putting the lid back into place, nicely centered. And now I'm going to push down my little edges all the way around the lid. I'm going to go around several times, pushing down, working at it, just to make sure that I have the edges as smooth as possible. You'll see that I'll probably pick up the bone folder here too and give it a whirl there, just to try and get it flattened out as much as I can. The next thing is that I've prepared a strip of black paper that I'm going to put around the edge, like so. So I'm putting the sticky tape on the back, and you see that I want it as close to the edge of my black band as possible. And since my tape is just a little bit too wide to put 2 rows together, I'm putting 1 row of sticky tape and I'm taking the backing off, and then I'm going to put the second bit down because it's going to go, it's overlapping in fact. There, once I get that off, I'm going to trim a little tiny bit of the excess sticky tape at the ends. And now I'll very carefully put that around the edge of my lid. And you'll see that once again, I'm going to work at it, push it down with my thumbs and fingers to get it as smooth as possible. Now, to see where I'm going to position it, I set it where I want it. Once again, I draw around with my pencil very lightly. And now you'll see that I'm going to put glue just slightly inside my pencil line. It's very difficult to see it on the video, but I am putting my glue just slightly inside my pencil line. Okay, I'm going to carefully place my button back inside the pencil line that I drew. And I'm going to decorate the top with just a circle that I used a punch, a 2.5 centimeter punch. Okay, pushing it down, pressing it into place. I'm going to set that aside so that it dries now. And I'm going to show you the next bit is going to be the lens for the front of the box. So I'm just using a permanent marker to trace around the milk bottle lid on a piece of acetate, cutting it out roughly first, and now I'm going to carefully cut on my red line, on my circle. Here what I've got are, my lid is 5 centimeters in diameter. My first circle there is 6, and the second circle is 4 centimeters in diameter. I'm placing them on my black piece of cardstock. I'm using a repositionable tape just to hold everything in place, and I'm going to just turn around, run that through the Big Shot, and cut them out. Okay, so you'll see that what I've got now is like a donut, if you will. I'm going to use my glue and very carefully put a very small quantity of glue just around the inside ring. I let it get a little bit tacky before I set the acetate on, and I don't push down very hard because I don't want the glue to gush out or to squish out. Okay. The next thing I'm going to do is put a circle in the bottom of the lid. I'm using a 4.5 centimeter punch for that, and a little bit of 3-dimensional double-sided tape to hold it in place. I'm also going to cut out a band the height of my lid. I'm going to burnish it a little bit. I'm going to break the fibers so that it'll go nicely inside the lid. I'm just testing it here. I'm going to take it back out and put my double-sided tape on it, close to the edges again. And we'll put that on the inside of the lid. Now, I didn't like the way that you could still see a bit of the lid down where the two papers meet, so that's why I'm covering them up with this cord here. There, that's what I want. It looks a little bit better like that. So I'm using a different type of glue here just because it has a pointier tip, and I can get the glue right down into that corner. And there we go. We'll just set that aside and let that really dry well as well. Now, we're going to use the same sort of technique as we did for the button. That is to say that we're going to put little pieces of tape all the way around the ring of my lens, the acetate. Again, I'm going to take my scissors and cut in. This time I'm going to cut in roughly to where the acetate edge is, about 5 millimeters again. Okay. pulling all the backing off. And I'm going to center it. I'm also putting a strip of sticky tape all around the upper edge of my lid, simply because I found that my the paper didn't stick down very well. So I'm using a double layer of tape, and that certainly helped. And again, with my thumb and my fingers, I'm just pushing down the edges. I'm going to work around it a couple of times just to try and get things as smooth as possible. See, I don't always use the bone folder. I think my thumbnail works just as well. And here too, I've got a black band prepared to go around the edge, to go around the sides of the lens, if you will. So my tape close to the edges again. I'm going to add a little tiny bit up here in the corner. I don't like that corner not having tape on it. And once again, I'm carefully going to apply it to the outside of the lid, lining it up as well as I can. And I'm working it around and around again with my thumb and fingers. Now, where am I going to position it? I wondered if I wanted it off center or not, but finally I decided that I was going to center it. So I'm just going to take my ruler, make sure that I have it perfectly centered. There's nothing worse than something that's centered and it's just off by a little tiny bit. Again, I'm tracing around with my pencil, putting my glue on the inside of the circle. This time I'm filling it, obviously, because I've got the full part of the lid behind it. And I'm going to put cord around there as well, just to make it tidy. I'm just using the regular glue this time because it's easy access. Once I've got it into place, I'm going to cut it to the right length, and I'm going to use a flame just to keep the ends from fraying. Obviously you've got to be careful there because you're very close to the paper. But there, I have a nice neat edge in the end. And here then is the other lens, a close-up with the cording. I've put cording in two different spaces, or two different places on this lens, on the upper edge and close to the camera itself. Okay, so now let's move on to the album. These two pieces of paper are going to form the base of your album. So you're going to cut one that's 26.5 by 15 and the other one that's 27.5 by 15 centimeters. On the longer of the two, you're going to make fold lines at 4, 14.5, 16, and 26.5. On the smaller of the two pieces, you're going to mark fold lines at 4, 14.5, 15, and 25.5. And now you're going to overlap these two pieces where you have the 1 centimeter end. Okay? Just use your sticky tape to overlap them. I've used my binding punch to punch out holes that look like a negative on both ends of the flaps that measure 4 centimeters wide. All right, that was the base of your album. Now we're moving on to the accordion fold-out part of the album. What you're going to do is cut two pieces that measure 29.7 that's the length of your A4 sheet, by 15 centimeters wide, and you're just going to overlap them the width of your adhesive. So just put a bit of adhesive on one end and overlap them. The next thing you're going to do with this is fold it every 10.5 centimeters, okay? And you're going to end up with a little bit at the end that measures just over 6 centimeters, or just about 6. And on that bit, you're going to put adhesive, and you're going to place this accordion on the portion of your base that I've put the arrow there, okay? So it's between the 1.5 centimeter panel and the 1 centimeter panel. All right, that's where you're going to glue that. The next thing you're going to do is prepare the flip up pages. So they measure 9.5 high by 10.5 wide. You're going to cut 7 of them all together, and you're going to make a fold line up at 9 centimeters. Okay, so then you're left with 9 millimeters of a little tab. Here too, I've used my binding punch to cut out a negative sort of effect at the bottom of each of these flip up pages. And I'm going to turn the tab over, put my sticky tape on it, on the tab part, and I'm going to line up the fold with the top of the album, okay? And I'm going to repeat that. I'm lining up the rest of the folds with the bottom of each of the tab, okay? So there'll be 9 millimeters between each flip page. There. Now we're going to put our ribbons on the back and the front of the little album. Okay, they're about 25 centimeters long, and I've just held them in place with sticky tape there as well. Now, before you start to cover everything up with your decorative paper, make sure that you remember to put your magnets in. Okay, you'll see, just fold your book all up, close it, and you'll see where to put your magnets. You're going to glue the little 4 centimeter flap down into place, and then you can just continue to cut all of your printed papers to fill everything that you want to fill up. Just make it as busy and as pretty as you like. My choice was to leave my flip up pages black because I'm going to use them for Polaroid type photos there, with a bit of a white band down at the bottom. And there, that's the end of the album. It's going to go inside the box, which is already done. As I've said before, really, you must run over to Alagaina's channel and have a look at her stuff, because it really is fabulous. And if you wanted to have a look at mine at the same time, I'd be thrilled. Take care.